Welcome to the Celebrate Arkansas podcast. I'm the managing editor, Jocelyn Murphy, and today we're here with Thomas Blackwell, Executive Director of Sharing and Caring of Benton County. Thanks for being here with the...
Of course.
I said us. It's just me. It's just you and me.
Yeah, it's a royal us. We'll take it. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell the rest of my team it's the royal...
You're right. Royal us. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the perfect time of year to be chatting with Sharing and Caring.
Yes.
Because you guys just had your biggest event of the year a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So that's why it's exciting, but let's back up a little bit and tell me a little about what is Sharing and Caring? Yeah. What do you guys do?
So Sharing and Caring traces roots all the way back to 1984. So this is, in our 41st year of some form of Christmas assistance going out under the name of Sharing and Caring. What started as, just individuals seeing need and peers and colleagues or students they may be working with and trying to help meet those needs on an individual basis has grown over the years. We were a program under the Boys and Girls Club until about 2007 when we continued to outgrow and went off and established our own 501c3. So since then, we've been serving thousands of kids with Christmas assistance over the years. So each year trying to bring a little more assistance and shine a little more light and offering support to the families. So you mentioned we just wrapped it up and our big event. So last Friday, December 13th, we distributed Christmas assistance to 3,184 kids from about 1,200 families all across Benton County.
Wow. That just in Benton County. That's an incredible figure.
It's really staggering. It's a lot of children. It's a lot of families. It's a lot of hurt and hardship that we're able to directly go in and take a little pressure off at the time when families might be feeling it the most and appreciating it the least.
Sure. Well, yeah, I feel like I was having that's a positive reaction to that figure, but you're right. There's also the other side of that is that it indicates the need just in one county, especially a pretty affluent county, which I think is maybe not easy, but I think people can forget that there's just as much need maybe in certain pockets as there is in other pockets where you might expect to find it.
Absolutely. It's really, when we think Benton County and Bentonville, it's very easy to think the circles and the spheres that we may stay in. And, if that's going from, a neighborhood of people that may be doing well and going to your office where, your coworkers and peers are in a similar situation as you, and staying in that bubble in between, it's really easy to forget that just on the outside of that is a lot of hurt and a lot of hardship and families that have been here long before many thousands of us and long before I've been here in this area. And a lot of those families are, really struggling to keep up with the growth in the area. And so it's, almost a lot of feeling of left behind that we hear from these families. And so trying to help give them and provide them with opportunity, with means, but as well as hope and joy and the things the holidays are supposed to be all about.
Yeah.
Making sure those families get to experience that.
Definitely. I definitely want to dig more into that mission, but we were talking before we started that, Sharing and Caring is an organization that Celebrate's been working with for a long time. Yeah. I didn't know that it wasn't always its own organization. So you said it was under the Boys and Girls Club. What was it? The similar focused on Christmas giving and then it just expanded?
Absolutely. So it was a focus on Christmas giving as well as a fundraiser to help support that mission, just because it's a lot goes into this Christmas. We offer each child to date $150 of assistance. And we have make those commitments to children regardless of whether we have people who are willing to go shop and maybe spend their own money or whether it's going to be funding that we provide. But we make sure that the funding is there to help meet those needs at Christmas. So as our program continued to grow and our numbers continued to increase, it just, started to get to the point where it's like, hey, we really need to be doing some heavy duty fundraising on our own and really being an independent organization. That led to that switch. Because before being under the Boys and Girls Club, we were really able to benefit a lot of the seasonal timeliness of our mission and really ramp up in December and kind of wind it down for the first 6 months of the year. So since then, it's been a big shift to grow and do more and expand our programs and expand even beyond Christmas to what we do.
Yeah. And so that was in 2007.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you come on?
So I joined the team in 2021.
Okay. And your background was not in nonprofit work before, correct? So
correct.
How did you end up where you are?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So my background was actually in the fitness industry before. So I was the head coach at Orange Theory in Bentonville, and before that, coached at Orange Theory in Rogers.
Okay.
background there, a big research background, and I've always been drawn to teaching or instructing or opportunities where I could use the knowledge and skills and information at my disposal to help improve the lives of others. And that came from personal struggle and that draw to health and fitness was personally running into some health concerns and not knowing how to navigate that field. I had to figure it out on my own. I felt like that was a shame and I wanted to try to fix that for other people. And while it's very gratifying and satisfying work, I was finding myself still feeling like I needed to help those who didn't have a means to help themselves, and still use that same expertise and that knowledge and the skills that I've developed. And so it made the decision that I need to start looking at the nonprofit sector because while, again, I love the position of impact and being able to help change people's lives for the better, there are so many thousands in our community that wouldn't have been able to take advantage of those services or may need more basic things. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're addressing the top level and there's some needs unmet at the bottom level.
Yeah.
And found, sharing and caring, that the stars just kind of aligned and definitely felt like it's where I needed to be. Opportunity.
Yeah.
It's I haven't looked back.
So that was also, it was past maybe what we would consider the peak of the pandemic, but still very much a tough time for lots of businesses. We're still figuring out how do we get it, back, or what are we ever going to go, air quotes, back or whatever. So I just remember 2021, 2020 was its own thing, and then 2021 was still a time of a lot of uncertainty.
It really was.
So how did that, what was the environment that you came into, and where is sharing and caring now that you've been here for a couple of years?
That's a fantastic question. So COVID was really challenging operationally for everybody. And like you mentioned, through the thick of it, was before I came on and joined the team. Our team and our board really encouraged and pushed that, hey, we're still making Christmas happen. This is going on. The hurt and hardship that our families are facing still needs to be there. So we did maintain as normal operations as we could. We adjusted our fundraising events and what have you during 2021 to align with requirements that we had from the state and federal government. And then as we entered into 2021, we started obviously peeling back, but there was still some uncertainty. The biggest thing was we felt like going into every operation, we needed to be prepared to go all the way back. Because at a moment's notice, it's, okay, now we need 6 foot social distancing and masking and plexiglass and right back into it.
Exactly.
And so almost having to plan a version 1, version 2 of everything we did, and also getting people comfortable with coming back to events. That's something that we're still seeing a lot of shift and transition. A lot of people, or a lot less travel maybe coming to events, or more intentional travel, I would say. But also a big desire for people now. What we're seeing from it is they really want to get out with the in-person events, and a big push for more mingling opportunities and networking opportunities. It feels almost like now we're seeing that hunger that it's like, hey, it's been so long since we've been able to go rub elbows, that it's really created a moving target for fundraising events, which makes it tough to make sure that they're aligned for proper support so that we can follow through on our Christmas program. Sharing and Caring operates on really slim margins. 96% of every dollar that's donated goes directly into our community.
Wow.
But keeping those thin margins means that we've got to, we've got to keep it going, because all those dollars are needed in the community. And so it's definitely a double-edged sword. It's fantastic to be able to have those thin margins, but you also can't take much of a hit.
Yeah. That is something that's so interesting to me. Maybe interesting isn't the right word. We work with a lot of nonprofit organizations, and that's always an issue, isn't it? How do you remain operational but commit most of the funds that you're raising to the cause that you're trying to help?
Absolutely.
Like it's hard.
It's extremely difficult. I imagine you would ask any nonprofit, any individual, and they would love and appreciate, or let you know, hey, I wish I could have 3 more people on my staff. I wish I could pay my staff more. I wish we could compete with the for-profit world on a lot of these pieces, because it's hard to not compete with those worlds and still be trying to, it's almost harder because we need more of that talent. The biggest thing we keep in is a small streamlined team. That's been our biggest metric of success. to keeping that figure small, to keeping most of the money going into the community, as well as prioritizing and keeping the mission first.
Well, as someone who's also part of a very small team, I understand then how much work that means each of your team members carries.
Oh, yes. The one thing that we're not allowed to say at our office is that's not my job. Yeah, that truck shows up to get unloaded, and it's got to get unloaded, and it's all of our jobs to get in there.
Yeah. So you said something that I wanted to go back to when you were talking about being in the fitness world, and you said in your own journey, you said, I kind of had to figure some stuff out on my own and felt like that was a bit of a shame. That really resonated with me because I feel like that is a really common feeling in so many areas. Whatever it is that you feel like you need, a resource, a lifestyle change, money, health, whatever it is, there's so much information out there. And it's so overwhelming. Who's right? What should I follow? Multiple can be right, but what's going to work for me? And especially when you're in your day-to-day routine, especially if you got kids, you're trying to keep them fed, keep them healthy. Like not nobody, but it can be really hard to mentally take that on. I feel like that's something that I have in fitness for me, and lots of different things though, because it's just overwhelming the amount of information that's out there.
It really is.
And then implementing something new into your own schedule. So I guess that just really resonated with me. Like I said, on the fitness side, you're talking about your fitness journey, but I see that in a nonprofit organization like Sharing and Curing, somebody who would need that kind of help or resource may not know where to look for it themselves.
Absolutely. Well, and we get calls all the time from families reaching out, asking for help that we do not offer, and for programs that we do not have. I mean, rental assistance, utility assistance. I mean, you name it, we get the calls for it. One of the biggest responsibilities of being in the nonprofit sector is connecting resources with families. And so we actually work really hard with our Christmas program, try to align families with the resources there as well as being another resource for families maybe in other programs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what we encounter is families not knowing how to ask for help when it's the first time they need to ask for help, which is really sobering, conceptually, is, the families who've got the kids, they're not coming to us because they're pregnant and now they need help. They're coming to us because they've got 4 kids and they're now in a situation where they are saying, I don't know if Santa can come this year. And so how do they do that? But if they're coming to us for that, there's other needs and there's other resources and there's other things that come up. So we provide support. A great example is to the women at Havenwood and to their families. So we really feel compelled to help those out. Havenwood does amazing support for their families day in and day out. They are doing so much more for these women and for these families than we ever could. But we can step in at Christmas because we've got the operations and the means to take on the 20 or so children that may be living there without it being, in there with the other 3,200 that we're taking care of. That's what we're doing. That's what we've been gearing up for all year. So by taking that pressure off of Havenwood, that allows them to focus on the main thing, but it also creates an opportunity for us to help teach these families, and okay, this is how we apply for help. This is what we need to see. These are the documentations. This is the why. And so we try to approach that with all of our families. In addition to the other resources, swim lessons for their kids, for example, that was in our food boxes. Goldfish Swim School is able to donate some free swim lessons for kids because that's a huge need they're seeing in the community. People always, calling and asking for scholarships. We can try to help with that. So just trying to connect those dots and connect and build up other nonprofits and other resources, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. Yeah. We're trying to make the world a better place than we found it. We're all going to do it in different ways. And so connecting those dots and helping those families and guiding them to learn and see, hey, this is where else you can go for help is a huge part of the nonprofit sector, and one that is a moving target we struggle to keep up with.
Right. Yeah. It's like I said, we partner. We have a lot of nonprofit partners that we work with on a very regular basis, and that's something that I remember. At least one of them is coming to mind. Has talked about multiple times. Yeah, I've heard him say that this need is what we work on. Are we fixing housing insecurity? Are we fixing healthcare needs? Are we meeting all the needs? No, but we couldn't possibly. No one organization can cover all of the needs. So we focus on what we can do. And then, like you said, now you're working with, not now, like it's new, but then you bring in the piece of you're working with other organizations and you're tying in those resources. And so then, just like Havenwood can't do everything, then you guys come in. And so that partnership is there. But yeah, I appreciated that, at least that's a point that's come up in several conversations, but because it can feel like, great, we're getting them Christmas presents or we're getting them food, but what about, and you just can't because you'd never get anything done. Right.
Like for these families, hey, we're getting them Christmas, we're getting them food, but what about where they live and shelter? I don't have the means.
No.
But other organizations in this example, Havenwood do. And we provide similar for other organizations as well, not to single them out.
Right.
There are countless other organizations that we, support and encourage their families to apply.
Absolutely.
We also worked really closely with the schools this year to encourage families that are in varying states of transition for school counselors to be able to advocate on their behalf. So varying, whether that may be doubled up or couch surfing or living out of their car for the time being, whatever, various state of not having permanent housing and transitional state they're in, we're going to help them out because that means documentation. They wouldn't be able to have the I's dotted and T's crossed. So the school is able to connect them with us and we're able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Similarly for families displaced by the tornadoes that we had in May. So we opened up, no questions asked. If your home was unlivable, if you were displaced, we're going to step in and take care of you. And so we were able to help hundreds of families that were, maybe we wouldn't have been helping them in normal situations, but we weren't in normal situations.
Yeah.
And so, but connecting those dots and those resources, we were able to be there for them and connect them with other groups that were able to be there to help them keep things moving. And it's really powerful when all that comes together.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And we saw that in very real time when the tornadoes came through. That was, you never want to see a tragedy like that, especially in your own community, So how many of us were like, gosh, I've lived here how long and nothing like this ever happened. But it was very inspiring watching, like immediate that night, the stories that I heard about people connecting and what he needed. And, it was crazy.
It was remarkable. Nobody knew what they were doing. Everybody was just doing their best. And that was all we had. I had a conversation with our team and all right, so we're dropping everything and we're going to do what we can. And we're a Christmas program and we're going to try to figure out how we do disaster relief and, step into filling gaps here. And that was a really powerful opportunity for a lot of people to step up in the community and really help out. And it was really cool to see it happen.
Yeah. So the primary focus, or is it the full focus, is Christmas programming?
I'd say that's our primary. It definitely takes a lot of our time and energy to accomplish. So within our Christmas program, we interview every single family, getting good information about the children, trying to get, their dreams, their interests, their hobbies, their, favorite colors, what TV shows they like, the stuff that mom and dad know that might inform their gifts. But when we have a complete stranger shopping for an 8-year-old boy's pajamas, they don't know anything, but they know he loves Spider-Man, then maybe we can make something happen.
Yeah.
So, and then getting them assigned to the individual shoppers, sorting and making sure the right gifts go to the right kid. It's very labor intensive. Our other program, his impact is growing exponentially and is at this point about 50% of our Christmas program and on track to, if we continue with this growth, surpass it here in the next 5 to 6 years in our scholarship program.
Okay.
So we
surpassed the Christmas program
in total annual impact.
Wow.
It's on its way. We're up this last year. We had 1,700 and students impacted by our scholarships. So these are funds that we provide to local high schools to cover testing materials, curriculum, enrollment fees, what have you, for any career and technical education across the county. So everything from certified nursing assistant to industrial maintenance to, we've got diesel mechanics, we've got emergency medical, we've got digital media design, real estate, beauty school. I mean, it's everything you can think of, any of those trades. But through covering those credentials and certifications, we've got kids graduating high school going straight into their apprenticeship. They don't have to go spend 2 years at Votech to then go to be able to go do something. They've got their OSHA certifications and they're ready to go. They're workforce ready. And hearing stories of families immediately, hey, I left, these students are leaving high school early. They're graduating a month early. So that way they can go start working because it's going to break the generational poverty cycle within that family.
Wow.
It's everything, right?
That.
It's the way that we make our Christmas program obsolete is by eliminating the need for our Christmas program. And that's a moving target. I'm sure we'll never hit it, but it's a great vision. And so that is a huge piece of what we do. However, it's not as labor intensive, so it doesn't get quite the eyes and energy that goes into it, because that is more of a financial support. So the fundraising piece behind it is substantial.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our Christmas program, I mean, there's thousands of volunteers, tens of thousands of man hours that go into pulling it off that really just make it a whole other animal.
Amazing. So can you detail some of that? When do you, I was going to say, when do you start working on it?
Yeah.
You never stop working on the Christmas
program. You see the ALF, right? It's the day after Christmas. All right, guys, 364 days till Christmas. That's pretty much it.
Do you guys start the year with that much enthusiasm?
To be honest, we're a little more tired. It's all right, guys. We're gonna rest for a week, and then Christmas starts. So maybe it's 360 days till Christmas when we start roaring and cheering.
There you go.
For people, it's by the end of it, nothing else. We just need a second to get our thoughts in order.
Yeah.
But it's a really intensive program. So we begin interviewing families throughout the month of October. And so that's when we've always held our interviews. That's when we'll always be conducting our interviews and accepting applications for our program. Throughout the month of November, that's when we've got shoppers out in the community shopping, and they've chosen to adopt these kids. And so we assign them entire families, making sure the kids are evenly shopped for through the same lens. That way there's consistency. The last thing we want is, we have a shopper feeling more generous for one sibling to get an extra $100 worth of gifts than their sibling, or what have you. So we have all that running throughout the month of November. Then for the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, we take all those gifts in, we get them sorted, we go through each bag, we make sure that the sizing lines up with what was provided by the parents. We also accept donations of toys and coats, and we do several drives for personal care items and such throughout the year that we use to supplement each kid's bag in the event one sibling's a little light, or just because they wanted that pink coat and maybe they couldn't find it at the store, but we've got it over there, so we'll run and grab it for you. And then getting it all ready for distribution on one day. So our distribution day was December 13th, and all 1,200 families picked up their gifts within about 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite an operation.
Yeah. How many volunteers does that take?
So from beginning to end this year, we're looking at about 1,200 to 1,300 volunteers. I think we're settling from October all the way through, or at least volunteer shifts that needed to be filled.
Yeah.
We definitely had some gung-ho volunteers in the group who were there for every day, sun up to sundown, which is, I cannot even begin to explain.
Where do you find the stamina?
I ask myself the same question.
Yeah.
But we're so enamored and blessed with that wonderful volunteer support, because without them, this doesn't happen.
Yeah. So then we're through distribution day. It's been a great success, but like you said, it maybe the next week it's okay. So what happens between Christmas and October?
So between Christmas and October is a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. We're constantly trying to find ways to reach new families, to encourage families to apply. There's, for the 3,200 kids that we served this year, and the 1,000 families served by Salvation Army. I have a Care Community Center, local Toys for Tots affiliate. They're taking care of a ton of kids in our community. We all collaborate to make sure we're not overlapping.
Okay.
But even amongst all those programs, there's still thousands of kids that at least qualify, and therefore likely may need our assistance. So we try to, reevaluate and figure out what other specific schools we need to be out working on for outreach. Do we need to be finding, new community partners, or is it working more with the companies that these families may be working for? And just trying to find those opportunities to help encourage those families to apply whenever it's, comes time for Christmas. The other big piece of it is the fundraising to make it all happen. Because it's, we were up about 8% on our kids this year, and we're able to go into October interviewing and accepting these families and making those commitments before we may even have all the shoppers and all the people to adopt those families. And so the only way we're able to accomplish that is by knowing that we can cover the shopping otherwise. So it's making sure that we've got the resources and supplies necessary to make the commitments to these families, because we're going to make it no matter what. There's also just internal process updates, and always trying to stay ahead, and how can we make it smoother and easier on the team, what have you. Yeah, that's a lot of work. More work goes into that.
Sure,
justice, but it's not very entertaining.
Sure,
I don't want to hear about my spreadsheets.
Well, I know the monetary side can be difficult, because it's always hard to ask anyone for money.
It is,
but any nonprofit they've always got that line, well, we'll always take funds.
Right.
I would have to imagine the sell might be even harder because while people love Christmas all year round, I guess what I'm thinking is we experience this sometimes in our deadlines. We're working up to 2 months, 3 months in advance sometimes. And sometimes the partners that we're working with, they're like, we're not even, we're right here. We can't think about 3 months from now. And so I would imagine that the fundraising piece specifically may be harder to convince people we need something at Christmas. And they're like, well, that's Christmas. That's 9 months from now.
Right. We're not even there. Oh, my goodness. If our fundraisers could be the same day as distribution and you say, hey, look out the window and see what's going on right there, I'm sure it would be a roaring success. I also don't know if I would have any hair left on my head by the time it's all said and done, because I can't even fathom taking our 2 biggest days of the year and smashing them on top of each other. I don't know if my team would even let me finish my sentence before they got up and walked out of the room with that idea. So it definitely makes it hard because the timeliness is crucial and important. So for that, we do try to tailor our events towards pieces that are more timely and appropriate. So for example, our first fundraiser that we'll be hosting, our first in-person fundraiser that is Eat, Engage, and Taste. That'll be April 29th, I believe. I think. That's going to hang me up on that date. It's at the end of April. Let's go with that. It's at the end of April, and it's a culinary challenge, but it's among students to whom we are funding their scholarship and their curriculum. And so it's high school students that are in school, and if you've ever seen Chopped, it's fixing the one piece of Chopped that's the worst, is that you just have to watch it. You don't get to engage and taste with the food. So we fixed that piece of it. So the students are competing for post-secondary scholarship funding, in addition to what we are already covering for the curriculums and courses they're in. And in doing so, they're preparing these dishes. And as a participant and as an attendee, you get to taste the dishes, you get to vote on them. Then we have secret ingredients or special ingredients that are provided by sponsors that they've got to use at some point in their 3-course pairing. So it's a really cool event. But with that event,
and cool for the students too.
Gosh, to show off and celebrate them, and there's a lot of touch points in that program or in that fundraiser that. With our scholarship program that I really don't get elsewhere. And I find myself really, I really look forward to that event for some of those pieces. It's just so powerful seeing these students, just celebrate and be proud of themselves. And it's just the coolest thing in the world to watch a young adult step into their pride and step into it and be like, yes, I am competent and I can own this.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose of the event. And so we celebrate and focus on our scholarship programs there. Because that is what we're focusing on, and it's a little more timely. It's getting close to graduation, and so it seems to align better there. Our next event we host is Sharing and Pairing, which is typically midsummer around June. And that event, we focus on the food portion of it. So we do provide families in our Christmas program with 3 to 5 days worth of food, and we prepare these food boxes for them. And so Sharing and Pairing is designed to help offset the costs associated with whatever we need to purchase for the food outside of donations that we receive for those items. So to help fill in the gaps and make sure they've got all the essentials for their well-rounded meals. So by tailoring the focus of those fundraisers, it really helps. Our biggest event in September is really tailored towards our Christmas program, and it is a little removed from there, but I find we're not talking 9 months. We're talking, hey, you're probably already thinking Christmas. Yes. You're already starting to squirrel away some money. So it's just timely enough where we're able to really bridge that gap.
Okay. And that is...
So our golf tournament is...
The golf tournament.
That is our biggest fundraiser. That is about 1,400 attendees and registrants all across the event. We've got 2 days of golf. We've got a huge dinner the night before, a massive auction. So we actually have 3 different auctions we run. We're a live auction. So, in person, throw your paddle up. A super silent, your old school pen and paper. Got to be there in person to get your bids. Got to watch it and make sure no one's, snags that Super Bowl package out from under you. And then we've got your online mobile auction that we run throughout the whole event.
Okay, wow.
And that one is a large undertaking, but that's really the one that keeps the lights on for us. And
wow.
It really empowers the rest of our Christmas program.
And again, I know a lot of volunteers are involved, but a team of 4.
A team of 4, yes.
Sorry,
it is pretty miraculous. I am extremely grateful for my team. We've got they're real heavy hitters. They're great at jumping in and switching hats and jumping into their roles. And the biggest thing is that we're all aligned on the mission and we're all aligned around the why. And once we're aligned on the why, everything else can fall into place. That's the main thing. The main thing, can't teach that.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned, so now we've gone through the year and we're coming back up to Christmas. You mentioned a couple of the other national programs that maybe nationally people may be more familiar with, you know, the Toys for Tots, the Salvation Army's Angel Tree. How does sharing and caring maybe not differ, because we're going through a lot, but if someone maybe leading up to Christmas, so now next year is, okay, there's several organizations that maybe I perceive do pretty similar things. Which one do I support? What is it about sharing and caring that, I guess, without asking this, makes it different from the others?
and there are things that Toys for Tots and Salvation Army do that we could never even dream of doing. I mean, the scope of reach those programs have is astronomical. I mean, the fact that they're every county, every kid, you know, everyone knows the Salvation Army bell ring. It's not geographically restricted.
Right.
We could never cast a team of 4. Oh my goodness, Benton County is already overwhelming. And then Toys for Tots, again, the scaling of that is just insurmountable. There's no way that we can hold a candle to that. And Toys for Tots, the way that they operate is they actually work with a local nonprofit. So Care Community Center is the organization that actually executes Toys for Tots program. And so they also do a ton of other programs outside, in addition to Salvation Army. You know, Salvation Army's got your shelters and food insecurity.
Right.
You know, medical services, all sorts of things that those other organizations provide in addition to Christmas. And so I think what differentiates us is the prioritization of the Christmas program, as well as by keeping a smaller geographic range, we're able to go to a lot more depth with our families and the families that we're serving. So it's a more personalized approach. Again, it's a more personalized approach for fewer families than we could if we were, you know, going a little more general and casting a broader net. But thankfully, that broad net's being cast. So we're able to focus and really dig into the heart of the hurt for these families.
Yeah.
A couple other key things about our program that we find really empower us to meet that need is by being small, it allows us to be agile. And so whenever we have things like a tornado coming through our town, it is a quick conversation, you know, a board meeting that we may need to go through to vote and approve, but it's a pretty quick
not a lot of red tape.
To say, okay, we're going to completely change the criteria for entering our program. We're going to add this entire new pathway in, and all we need is this form and this letter, and we can do that. Whereas with these other programs, there's more red tape. They've got to get it, you know, they've got their standard protocols and what have you that they need to do to be able to consistently provide support across the U.S. So that agility allows us to be a little more timely and fill in gaps a little more effectively. The other big piece is who we serve. So we serve children until they graduate high school, regardless of how old that may be. So there are children that may have disabilities and special needs that are in their early 20s that are still in high school, and we'll keep supporting them and taking care of them versus a hard age cutoff.
Wow, yeah.
You may see. So that allows us to, we find we're generally supporting more kids per family, or holistically the entire family, in addition to some of the younger kids. Even though those older kids, teenagers are harder to shop for than.
Oh, gosh.
They just want a gift card and a good pair of headphones. And it's not quite as much fun as going and finding Barbie's dream house. But those headphones might mean more to that kid than Barbie's dream house ever would.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting paradigm, and I understand why other organizations may shy away from that. But we feel that's a huge need, and that's where we really, really make a big impact.
Well, again, I think the figures speak for themselves as far as the need. And so you said when we were talking about the fundraising, if you could have the fundraising day on the same day as distribution, you could literally gesture, look at the need. Can you talk a little about, obviously we wouldn't get into any specific personal stories with any people that you're supporting, but what kind of stories have stood out to you in your time with Sharing and Caring, and maybe since you're very fresh off distribution day, maybe something that you saw or interactions that you see on distribution day that really drive home the core of the message or the core of the mission for you?
There's quite a few.
I'm sure
it's and depending on it, you know, we can get in on this. We got another hour on this. We start sharing some more stories, so to speak. What always stands out to me, the first thing that jumps to mind is actually the first interview I did. So when I joined the team, I was blessed that Sarah Sim, our outgoing executive director, and I were able to overlap for 3 to 4 months, which allowed me time to sit in every role and really learn the organization, learn the operations before I had to fully take the reins. And in doing so, I took the opportunity to interview as many families as I could and be a part of each step in that process where we would have volunteers plug in to gain that understanding. The first interview I sit down for, the wish lists were clearly written by the kids, which is fine. We set our program up to where parents can totally take credit. Gifts come unwrapped, we give them wrapping paper. Kids don't need to know. And so I hope those kids didn't know, but I think the teenage boy might have.
Okay.
Because on his list, we have 2 sections. It's what you need and what you want. And the first want item was my own bath towel that this 16-year-old boy had written. And just devastating. I sit down on the first interview I've ever done, and that's the first thing I read. And clearly 16-year-old boy handwriting this, different from mom's that was right above it. Definitely had to go ask some questions and go compose myself for a moment. That's just devastating to even think about, just how privileged am I that I've never even had to consider having my own towel. And here's this kid that's all he wants. It's not even a need, it's a want for Christmas.
And especially at an age, like you said, teenagers are hard to shop for, but it's because they're coming into their own personalities and they have their developed interests and they know what is going to bring value into their life. So especially for a 16-year-old to express a need like that is, I know we've already used the phrase staggering, but that's the only thing that's in my brain right now. It's
It really is. Exactly. It's when it wasn't an Xbox. It wasn't a new computer. It was something that most of us wouldn't even think or need to ask for Christmas because we would just take care of it if we ever happened to find ourselves without one.
Right.
That one always just jumps out at me. And that was my first, okay, this is buckle up. You're going to hear some hardship here. Families that lost everything in storms, that was heartbreaking. And hearing that they're still don't know what's going on. They've had to move hotels 3 or 4 times. They're still trying to wait for insurance and FEMA to figure out whatever they're doing. I don't understand the process, but it sounds awful. It sounds like a lot of just waiting and just kind of ambiguous answers. And that was really challenging to hear a lot of this year. And then just the number of families doubled up, and in transition, we're seeing more and more of those families that are, they're not able to have a permanent residence. Just seeing those things start to tip up really way heavy and really are indicators of how those who hurt the most are hurting more than ever in our community. It's really tough. A couple of fun ones that stick out to me as well. This one actually we just got yesterday. There was a family that was really hesitant to apply. They were worried that they might not get in. They were worried about submitting documentation to us, given new political discourse on immigration status, because we help a lot of families that may not be here, they may not have all their papers in order, so to speak. Because all I care about is that they're in Benton County and they need help. And that's our criteria. But there was a lot of apprehension, a lot of fear. And so it took some encouragement for them to apply. And they sent us a video of the teenage girls opening their gifts, squealing, and just the stomping their feet and just overjoyed and tears of happiness. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I can't believe that someone loves me this much, is the commentary that we're hearing. Just, oh God, that doesn't get you nowhere.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Wow.
There's a lot of that, but it's really impactful to be able to also step in and provide some hope and provide that light and give that family that, what parent doesn't want to see their kid open something on Christmas morning and stomp their feet and squeal with excitement and feel so loved. That's the whole point, is it's not about the stuff. It's about the love. It's about the joy. It's about the community and the togetherness the families get to spend during this time.
Which is what Christmas is about,
right?
For many. And like you said with the towel story, if that's not something that you have experienced ever, it's so easy to take for granted that Christmas is going to be this warm, beautiful, gift-filled, light-filled time for your family, when that's not the case for a lot of families.
Right. For a lot of families, this is the hardest time of the year. I mean, we see it and look at the suicide rate during the holidays. It's exponentially higher. This is, in addition, in a time that should be all about love, there's so much stress. And so by coming in and speaking to this, obviously we're taking care of the kids, but we're taking the stress off the parents. We're taking the stress off the family units. And that's why we try to provide other household essentials. We do our 3 to 5 days worth of food in our food boxes. We provide, Tyson donates meat, and so they give out case packs of meat. I was talking to families that were eating off of that for 6 months, which is amazing. For 6 months, no matter what, there was always a dinner in the freezer they could pull. And that is so powerful. There's security. There's a safety net. Paper towel, toilet paper, and Kleenexes from Kimberly-Clark, as well as facial wipes and baby wipes from Nice Pack that we provide to every family. And so by taking care of some of those basic needs, it helps even more to take the stress off. I mean, I know when we run out of paper towels, like, all right, well, this grocery bill is going to be $100 more than the last one. So we'll take care of one of those for the family. And, maybe that lets mom and dad get themselves a little something nice.
Yeah. As we've been talking, some of what I've been thinking about is, I think maybe in the realm of what a special person it takes to be involved in a like their job. Volunteering is also great, like so important. But just because just thinking for me, and this is a very privileged position to be able to come from, I'm so emotional, and some of these heavy things that we're talking about, there's been other things in my life where I have seen, like, witnessed or experienced, like it was close to me, but it wasn't my tragedy. And it's just like, it weighs on you, because that feeling of, what can I do? I can't fix that, or I can't, whatever. I know it's this negative thing, but it's so heavy. And I think being in a situation where you constantly see the need, and the hope is to eliminate the Christmas program eventually, but the thought of, we may never reach that, and we may never meet all of the need. I don't know. I've heard people talk about, is it futile? No, because it matters. But it could, if you were the type of person, and I believe that I am, that lets that, like, carries that with you, it could be hard to, what's the point? Of course there's a point, but you know what I'm trying to say?
I completely understand. We're talking with families that are talking about struggling with basic needs. And here I am talking about what toys you want for Christmas, right? It's hard not to sit there and think, is this where the help needs to be? Is this futile? And the answer is no, because just because they also need those things, I mean, they don't need this. And we're going to do what we can do. And for the family that's sitting right in front of us, and we know there's another family right behind them, and we're going to keep going until we've done everything we can. I think the hardest part is being in the nonprofit sector. I don't think it's any secret that, we could probably do better in the for-profit sector. And we're the kind of people on our team, and I think you'd really be hard-pressed to find anyone in the nonprofit sector that doesn't share this trait, that feeling, that warm fuzzies is that's payment enough kind of attitude. Is like, that's the reward, and that makes it worth it, is knowing that we're able to solve and meet some of this hardship, and we're not just having to take it on, but we have to hold it, and then we can solve, and we can help reduce some of that heartache and some of that hardship. But our team, everyone on our team is similar. It's the big heart. It's I would move mountains to change the outcomes for this family, to change their situations, but we can only do so much. I think the biggest piece that helps us as a team work with that is coordination with other nonprofits, knowing that while I can't meet X, Y, and Z that you're encountering, these people can. And so let's connect you with those resources, and helping connect those resources is a huge avenue to ensure that they're getting the help they need. Because it's not uniform. Every family's help and and their situations are different. But by having all these organizations in their positions, there is total coverage. And so you have to have that faith and that trust that while I can't help with rent, someone else can. And while they might not be able to help with Christmas, I can do that. And we've got other groups that may be able to provide, really cool resources for these students to help them, with maybe scholarships, or maybe getting them into specific programs at college for a more traditional academic route. But we can focus on the traits. And so we know what we're going to do. We've established our lane. We've established that the impact is significant. And from there, just focusing on fixing what we can for these families, and knowing that there's going to have to be someone else to come through too.
Yeah.
And so why not invite them along?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like we said at the beginning, there's always going to be both sides of it. But my initial reaction when you started at the top and said the number of families and the number of children that you were able to serve that was just through the distribution.
That was just Christmas program.
Yeah.
Spain.
It, again, indicates the level of need, but is incredible that also, again, such a small team with volunteers was able to serve so many. Like, that is really indicative to me of the heart of Northwest Arkansas that I have, the community that I have come to know anyway. Again, we work with a lot of community partners, nonprofit partners, but we also work with a lot of people who are not part of that organization, but fiercely advocate. They are supporting every way they can. They're out sharing the story so that other people will be moved to share or to support. And some of it also comes from, again, it's a kind of affluent county,
right?
But that positions us even better to be able to support some of these, as many as we can of the organizations.
And I think you touched on something that's so important is this in this community. Northwest Arkansas is this weird microcosm of just we've got our own economy. We've got everything is different around here. And one of the pieces that just is so clear is the number of self-made individuals that we encounter. Is that Northwest Arkansas hadn't been big long enough for there to be old names in the town, right? Yeah. Like most people here are transplants, or if they're, are in the more affluent areas, it's because they worked their way up through that. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of our supporters and conversations we have are not very far removed from being the ones receiving help in our Christmas program. In fact, talking with shoppers as they're dropping off gifts and conversations with other supporters and learning that they were in sharing caring as a kid, and they were in a similar program as a kid, and it changed their life, and that's why they're here today. And so having that, new growth in the area and the new, perspectives and people that are closer, just one generation removed from being in those situations, really is powerful and is palpable in this area that I haven't seen elsewhere. Mm-hmm. It's really it blows me away.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So I appreciate you mentioning that. And also, like I said, that's something that I feel like I encounter a lot in my job. And hopefully, like I said, I feel like I'm a very emotional person. I carry the weight of a lot of things. And so I feel like in telling some of the stories that I get to tell through Celebrate, that's part of my, I'm trying to support these causes too, in sharing, like I said, that story side. Because that's always been my passion, is whether it's an organization or a person. I was explaining this to someone recently. They were like, what is it about writing? And I said, I like telling someone's story in a way that hopefully whoever's reading it or listening to it goes, oh, that's so interesting, either about that person's interesting, or, oh, I want to know more about that thing now. Mm-hmm. And if we can do that with these organizations doing such important work, but such big, like so much of it, so much work, that's what I'm trying to, that's what the piece that I try to bring to Celebrate. And I think, Celebrate, it also comes alongside these partners and trying to celebrate their stories and their work. So
absolutely. I agree. And I think that's, giving these, the families, the volunteers and our supporters and our nonprofit and other groups that you interview, giving them the voice and allowing those stories to be told. Is the biggest way that we can remember that we are in a bubble when we are in our bubble, and that, hey, you don't have to drive very far to get very far on the other side of the bubble, and the haves, the have-nots. But the beautiful piece of this community is that, they say it takes a village, and by golly, do we have one here. And it's so amazing.
I love that. So you're just on the other, literally so freshly on the other side of distribution day, your biggest day of the year. We're coming into the holidays. So hopefully your team can have a little bit of a rest.
Yes.
But then you've outlined some of your, or I guess the big fundraisers that people can look forward to next year. What else do you want people to know about how they can support Sharing and Caring, or what they need to be on the lookout for?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing I would recommend is following us on Facebook and Instagram. We're very vocal about what we're doing and where we are. Coming up in February, we'll be having a coat drive, and so tons of local businesses can engage and set up a coat drive box in their office or in their foyer. We've got our Eat coming up at the end of April. We've got our big golf tournament September 3rd and 4th this year. So all sorts of events and fundraisers and ways to engage. But the biggest piece is, no matter how you want to engage and support, we're small and agile enough where we can find a way to make that be extremely impactful. So whether it's the time, the energy, the funding, resources, if you're wanting to get involved and help, let us know, because I guarantee you we've got an avenue for it.
Yes, there's always need.
Yes, no matter what it is, no matter what you got. It may seem like it's out of the box, but it's probably exactly what we're hoping for.
Wow, yeah. I also have to know, did you wear your amazing jacket during distribution day?
Unfortunately, it was delayed in shipping.
No.
And I was sitting there watching it go on Thursday, and it didn't show up, and it showed up late in the evening on Sunday. And,
No.
just in time. Because unfortunately, it took me way too long to get my appropriate attire in my appropriate wardrobe.
Next year.
Oh.
So for those listening, Thomas is wearing an amazing bright green
turn the lights
Christmas
on for you,
jacket.
make it fancy.
That lights up.
There it goes.
Great. Santa's on it. Christmas lights are on it. It's perfect. So now you've got your outfit ready for next year.
Absolutely. So we're ready to go. So let's just do it right now.
What does your team have to say about that?
They're not listening right now. So.
Okay. So Thomas, thank you so much for being here with us and for sharing part of Sharing and Caring's story. And we just are so thankful for the partnership and also for all of the work that your organization is doing in our community at this time of year, particularly because that, as you're saying, all of the things that this time of year and Christmas should be for families, if you haven't experienced not having that, you don't know what that experience is, to have to tell your children Santa didn't come this year or whatever the case is. And God forbid anyone ends up in that position. And so I personally am just appreciative of the work that you guys are doing to hopefully meet that, what's the phrase you're using, that hurt and
to help.
Hurt and hardship.
Yeah, hurt and hardship.
Hurt and hardship. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the opportunity and for the platform. And this is, opportunities to share the word about what we do. And, hopefully someone listening to this feels compelled to jump in and help be a part of the change next year. And I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Certainly. Yes.
Thank you.